දැන් මාස 25ක ස්ථාවර තැන්පතු සඳහා 10.75ක අසම සම පොලියක් LB යසෙසුරු.
Tonight, on First at 9 this Wednesday, the 4th of February 2026. 78 years since. Sri Lanka celebrates 78 years of independence. Addressing the nation, President Anura Dissanayake vows to build a new Sri Lanka with equitable distribution of economic benefits. Pledges to institute the most transformational change in Sri Lanka's education sector. True independence. Protests staged in Kilinochchi and Batticaloa declaring 78th Independence Day a black day for the Tamil community. International greetings. Global leaders congratulate Sri Lanka on 78 years of independence. US looks forward to increasing trade and investment with Sri Lanka, says Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Sacred Exposition. Sacred Devnimori relics of Lord Buddha arrive in Sri Lanka from Gujarat. Special exposition at Gangarame Temple from tomorrow until February 11.
Kalin baby so rupial anuwakata. Kalin baby podi hamotamai.
This is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9 on Sri Lanka's premium news provider, Derana News Channel. I am Tarindu Mahendra joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Now, Sri Lanka today celebrated 78 years of independence with a simple yet proud national ceremony at Independence Square in Colombo. This year's national celebration, chaired by President Anura Dissanayake, was held under the theme Rebuilding Sri Lanka. Addressing the nation, President Dissanayake stated that he intends to build a new Sri Lanka where all citizens benefit from the nation's economic achievements. The President also stated that the government is ready to institute the most transformational change in Sri Lanka's education sector. Sri Lanka's 78th National Independence Day celebration was held at Independence Square in Colombo this morning. This year, the national celebration was themed Rebuilding Sri Lanka. The celebration was attended by parliamentarians including the leader of the opposition, members of the diplomatic missions in Sri Lanka and government officials. The ceremony began with the arrival of the guests, with Chief Justice Preethipadman Surasena arriving first. Subsequently, Speaker of Parliament Dr. Jagat Wickramaratne arrived.
ශ්‍රී ලංකා පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ ගරු කතානායක වෛද්‍ය ජගත් වික්‍රමරත්න මැතිතුමාගේ පැමිණීම.
The speaker was followed by Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya.
සමාජවාදී ජනරජයේ ගරු අග්‍රාමාත්‍ය සහ අධ්‍යාපන උසස් අධ්‍යාපන සහ වෘත්තීය අධ්‍යාපන අමාත්‍ය ආචාර්ය හරිනි අමරසූරිය මැතිණියගේ සම්ප්‍රාප්තිය.
Formal festivities commenced following the arrival of President Anura Dissanayake, who inaugurated the ceremony by hoisting the national flag, after which the national anthem was sung.
කුමාර දිසානායක මහතාගේ සම්ප්‍රාප්තියයි විහිමි.
Subsequently, the President was escorted to the special platform by the commanders of the Tri-Forces and Inspector General of Police. Afterwards, Buddhist incantations were recited. Subsequently, a 2-minute silence was observed in honour of all of Sri Lanka's fallen war heroes and patriots. Afterwards, the President received a ceremonial guard of honour by the Tri-Forces. Subsequently, President Anura Dissanayake addressed the nation.
The theme of this year's Independence Day is Rebuilding Sri Lanka. We must rebuild Sri Lanka on the foundations of independence, sovereignty and freedom. This is not a development model that severs our roots or erodes our national character, but one that builds a new Sri Lanka upon them. We must transform our human resource into one that prioritizes knowledge over ignorance, progress over outdated prejudices and unity over division. Therefore, we must foster a well-rounded population enriched with knowledge, compassion and modern technology. To achieve this, we must initiate the most transformative era in our education sector. We are ready to do so. Racism and extremism are the most two unpleasant words in our vocabulary. Therefore, I reiterated to the people of this country that we will never again allow division, racism or extremism. Every individual has the opportunity to exercise their rights fairly and equally under the rule of law. We must build a new Sri Lanka where all citizens are subject to the law and public confidence in the supremacy of the law is firmly upheld. Consider the devastating cyclone Ditwa that recently struck the country, causing widespread damage. The Central Highlands are crucial for Sri Lanka's longevity. Yet within our lifetime, we have witnessed severe destruction in the Central Highlands, highlighting the urgent need for preservation and sustainable management. What we seek is a development path that strengthens ecosystems, preserves flora and fauna that existed when we were born, and ensures even greater protection for future generations. This must be a central responsibility in the Rebuilding Sri Lanka initiative. We must establish a strong, resilient and sustainable economy. We can be somewhat proud considering that in 2025, we witnessed the lowest budget deficit since 1977, highest government revenue after 2006, the largest current account surplus in Sri Lanka's history, the highest tax revenue collected by the Department of Inland Revenue, and the sustained maintenance of bank interest rates at single digits, demonstrating remarkable economic stability. The benefits of economic achievements must reach the people who form the foundation of that prosperity. The vision for a renewed Sri Lanka is one where the benefits of economic growth flow to the people, creating a nation in which prosperity is shared equitably and inclusively. What we must integrate into our hearts and minds is a firm determination to rebuild the nation. I, as the President, along with the Cabinet, the leader of the opposition, the public service and religious institutions, call upon all citizens to come together and commit wholeheartedly to the comprehensive reconstruction of our country. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. What we need is to progress in every field. The journey cannot be taken alone. Let us embark on the journey of progress together.
The ceremony continued with the Independence Day parade featuring the Tri-Forces, the Police, the Civil Defence Force and the National Cadet Corps. Similar to last year, this year's parade also featured a reduced number of personnel and did not include combat vehicles. Further, the parade only featured 3 Air Force helicopters. The celebration also featured several traditional performances. The 78th National Independence Day celebration concluded with the singing of the national anthem in Tamil. Subsequently, the ceremonial 25-gun salute by the Sri Lankan Navy was performed at 12 noon by SLNS Sayura from the waters of Goldface Green.
Central Finance Youth Aduwatawa.
Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya, in her message for the 78th Independence Day, stated that Sri Lanka is marking the occasion with renewed hope as it enters a new chapter under a people's government committed to economic stability, social welfare and national unity. Meanwhile, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa, in his Independence Day message, called for an honest reflection on the nation's past and urged all democratic forces to unite beyond political, racial and religious divisions to shape a stronger future.
Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya, in her message for the 78th Independence Day, said the occasion is being observed with renewed hope as Sri Lanka enters a new chapter under a people's government formed through the collective will of its citizens. She reaffirmed the government's commitment to key national priorities, including stabilizing the economy. The Prime Minister also said the government is focused on strengthening welfare mechanisms to protect vulnerable groups, driving digital transformation through science and technology, and positioning Sri Lanka globally through a non-aligned foreign policy based on trust and cooperation. She emphasized that the present moment calls for unity, urging all citizens to set aside narrow political interests in the pursuit of national progress. Meanwhile, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa, in his message for the 78th Independence Day, stressed the importance of reflecting on the nation's past while remaining firmly focused on the future. He said an objective assessment of the country's journey reveals both notable achievements and serious setbacks. He noted that national progress has been hindered by flawed political decisions and changes of power driven by narrow political interests, calling for an honest and realistic evaluation of these challenges. He underscored the need for all democratic forces to work together and called on political parties, civil organizations and citizens to unite as Sri Lankans, stressing that independence was achieved through unity rather than divisions based on race, religion or any other differences. Meanwhile, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa, in his message for the 78th Independence Day, noted that the occasion entails much more than ceremony, serving as an opportunity to showcase the country's dignity to the world. The former president recalled the 62nd Independence Day celebration in 2010 at the Temple of Sacred Tooth Relic following the defeat of terrorism, describing it as a lasting memory. He paid tribute to those who made the ultimate sacrifice for Sri Lanka's independence and acknowledged the bravery of the armed forces, police and others who safeguard the nation. Finally, the former president extended his wishes for Sri Lanka to move forward as a free and dignified nation.
Meanwhile, global leaders also extended wishes for Sri Lanka's 78th Independence Day. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio extended congratulations for Sri Lanka's 78th Independence Day. He described a growing partnership rooted in shared interests in the Indo-Pacific, stating that the two countries have strengthened ties under the Trump administration. Rubio added that the US looks forward to increasing trade and investment with Sri Lanka. The Australian High Commission, extending wishes for the 78th Independence Day, said Australia stands proudly with Sri Lanka on the nation's journey towards peace and prosperity. His Majesty King Charles III congratulated Sri Lanka on 78 years of independence and reiterated that cooperation across education, trade, climate resilience and shared global challenges continues to strengthen the bilateral relationship. President of Pakistan Asif Ali Zardari extended warm greetings to President Anura Dissanayake, the government and the people of Sri Lanka, and stated that friendship and cooperation between the two nations will continue to grow stronger in the years ahead. Indian High Commissioner Santosh Jha extended warm greetings to all Sri Lankans, stating India shares the spirit of celebration as Sri Lanka's trusted and dependable partner. President of the Maldives Dr. Mohamed Muizu conveyed best wishes to the President and the people of Sri Lanka. He stated that Sri Lanka has long been a close and trusted friend of the Maldives and wished all Sri Lankans enduring unity and unwavering resolve against every challenge. Chinese President Xi Jinping congratulated President Anura Dissanayake on the 78th anniversary of Sri Lanka's independence, noting that China and Sri Lanka are fellow travelers on the path of development and revitalization and good partners pursuing mutually beneficial cooperation. President Xi also voiced his readiness to work with President Dissanayake to deepen the China-Sri Lanka strategic cooperative partnership and build a China-Sri Lanka community with a shared future so as to better benefit the two peoples. In observance of the 78th Independence Day, a series of religious ceremonies were performed this morning at several places of worship across Colombo. In addition, floral tributes were paid at the D.S. Senanayake Memorial at Independence Square.
A series of religious observances were performed across the country to commemorate the 78th Independence Day. Buddhist rituals were observed at Dharmakirti Ramaya Temple in Kolpiti. The ceremony saw the attendance of opposition leader Sajith Premadasa, Minister of Buddha Sasana, Religious and Cultural Affairs Dr. Hiniduma Sunil Senavi, former Speaker of Parliament Karu Jayasuriya and several other public representatives.
The legacy of imperialism continues to manifest itself in contemporary society in various forms. Indirect imperialism appears to prevail across multiple spheres, including the economic and social sectors. We firmly believe that genuine independence can only be achieved by overcoming these adverse influences. To this end, it is imperative that we strive to safeguard not only political and civil freedoms, but also economic, social, religious and cultural independence.
සහ අනිකුත් නිදහස් තත්ත්වයන් ජයග්‍රහණය කරන්නට අපි දිගින් දිගටම කටයුතු කරන්න.
The deputy chief prelates of the Asgiri and Malwatu chapters also issued messages for the 78th Independence Day.
අපිට නිදාට ලැබිලා
As we mark 70 years of independence, we are deliberating on many issues both within and outside of Parliament. We have been talking for 78 years. We kindly request that steps be taken to develop the country with fewer words and more action.
බොහොම කාරුණිකව මතක් කර දෙනවා.
අපි ජාති ආගම් කුලමල මේ සියලු බේදවලින් තොරව එක්සත්ව එක්සිත්ව මේ නිදහස සමරන අද දවසේ ජාතියක් හැටියට රටක් හැටියට ගොඩනැගෙන්න හැමදෙනාම අදිෂ්ඨාන කරගන්න කියන එකයි මහා සංඝරත්නය හැටියට අපි මේ අවස්ථාවේ හැමදෙනාටම කාරුණිකව සිහිපත් කරන්නේ.
Floral tributes were paid this morning at the statue of first Prime Minister of Independent Sri Lanka, D.S. Senanayaka, located at Independence Square. Concurrently, Catholic religious observances was conducted at the All Saints Church in Boralla under the patronage of Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit. The ceremony was attended by a number of public representatives, including National People Power MP Stephen Fernando.
What has become of the noble values that shaped our society over the past 78 years? As a nation founded upon the teachings of Buddhism, it is imperative that the country's leaders acknowledge and respect the status of this religion. In recent times, the government's attitude towards the Buddhist clergy and other religious leaders appears to have worsened. It is acting as if religious leaders have no say in public concerns. The situation, regrettably, continues to worsen. We strongly condemn the statements by certain ministers that demean and undermine religious leaders.
පරිභවයට ලක් කරමින් කරන ප්‍රකාශ අප විසින් මෙහිදී එලා දැකිය යුතු වේ.
Meanwhile, Hindu religious observances were conducted at Mairapadi Sri Bhadrakali Amman Kovil in Vellavatta, while Islamic rites were observed at the Jumma Masjid in Javatta. Christianity religious observances were performed at the People's Church in Colombo 5. Meanwhile, in commemoration of the Independence Day today, special presidential pardons were granted to 49 inmates serving sentences at the Valikada, Gol, Anuradhapura and Batiklo prisons. In parallel with the 78th Independence Day, Sri Lanka Army approved official promotions for 9,158 commissioned officers and non-commissioned officers with effect from today.
Now, as Independence Day celebrations unfolded elsewhere, protests were staged today in Kilinochchi and Batiklo, with participants observing the 78th Independence Day as a day of mourning. The demonstration saw the participation of university students and representatives from Tamil civil society organizations and Tamil political parties.
A protest was staged at the Kandeswamy Kovil in Kilinochchi today, declaring the 78th Independence Day a black day for the Tamil community. The Student Union of the University of Jaffna, civil society organizations and representatives of Tamil political parties participated in the demonstration. Subsequently, protesters marched to the city of Kilinochchi, where they continued the demonstration. Meanwhile, another protest march was initiated at the Kallari Bridge in Batiklu. The demonstration was organized by the Association of the Families of the Forcibly Disappeared and students of the Eastern University of Sri Lanka. A tense situation unfolded when police prevented protesters from entering Gandhi Park in Batiklo, where an Independence Day celebration was underway. Subsequently, the protest march was redirected towards Kallari Bridge, where the demonstration continued.
The country is celebrating 78 years of independence. However, we are staging protests today considering this a day of mourning. Families and relatives of missing people are joining university students for this protest. We have been searching for our family members for the past 3 decades. However, our concerns were not addressed by any government. It has been a year since this government assumed power. However, no solutions have been provided as of today. We will only be able to celebrate our independence if these concerns are addressed.
Welcome back to First at 9. Now, leader of the Sarva Jana Balaya parliamentarian Dilith Jayavira states that Sri Lanka should focus on developing its domestic economy without becoming entangled in foreign conspiracies. Joining the Independence Day celebration at the Sarva Jana Balaya headquarters, he further stated that the incumbent government has become a puppet of imperialist conspiracies.
An Independence Day memorial organised by the Sarvajana Balaya to celebrate Sri Lanka's 78th Independence Day took place at the party headquarters under the patronage of party leader parliamentarian Dilip Jayavira.
Dilip Jayavira created Sarvajana Balaya to institute development while protecting our roots. However, the NPP and the president are currently claiming that existing institutions are useless, labelling temples, kovils and churches as feudal centres of power. This is why Minister Lal Kantha stated that these institutions should be attacked. There have been physical attacks on Buddhist monks and Catholic priests. Now attacks are also being carried out through social media. It is like dismantling an attic to make a chair. In the end, they will lose both. Imperialist conspiracies have always existed in this small island nation, though they appear in new forms. The most recent conspiracy involved the undemocratic removal of a democratically elected government and executive president. There were conspirators even within his own residence. As a result, a puppet government has now come into power. The economy is no longer guided by the government, the Minister of Finance or government officials. Instead, it is being directed according to a foreign agenda. First and foremost, they are attempting to destroy our collective values, including our humanity. If we are to build an economy that places wealth in the hands of ordinary people, it must be based on a domestic economic model, not a puppet-like dependence on foreign loans, advice and strategies. No matter how difficult the path may be, we must move forward without falling into traps and conspiracies.
Meanwhile, leader of the United National Party, former President Ranil Wickremesinghe, invites all political forces to unite to safeguard Sri Lanka's multi-party democracy. He made these remarks during the inauguration of the UNP's Digitalization initiative.
Smart UNP 2026, the inauguration of the digitalization process of the United National Party, was held this afternoon at Sirikotha under the patronage of party leader, former President Ranil Wickremesinghe.
The country's economy collapsed in 2022. Overnight, the value of the rupee fell sharply from 185 to between 330 and 360 against the US dollar. I assumed office at a critical juncture and was able to stabilize the country during that period. Today, we are no longer living in the era of J.R. Jayawardene, what may be described as Trump's world. The United States now faces competition from China and India, and this is the global reality in which we exist. Our neighbor India has also emerged as a major competitor to the United States, reflecting the dynamics of the present international order. This is the new era we must confront and adapt to. Generation Z has been born into a digital age, and without embracing technology, there can be no future. We must move forward alongside this generation. The objective of the United National Party is to guide the country along this path. However, before the nation can embark on this journey, the party itself must take the lead. It is for this reason that we have launched a digitized party today. The majority have already digitized, and we must move forward accordingly. The most crucial step in securing our future is safeguarding a multi-party democracy. That is the path forward. Accordingly, we call upon all forces to unite to make this objective a reality. And with that, here's a look at more of the latest developments unfolding in the political arena.
It is not the President, the cabinet of members of Parliament who adjudicate on legal proceedings, but the courts. The law applies equally to former presidents and first ladies as well as ordinary citizens. All concerns will be addressed and clarified through the judicial process. Only one faction is receiving summons. There are no summons for the government regardless of the mistakes it makes or the accusations it faces. This reflects an attempt to control the opposition. I do not believe this attempt will be successful. The prime directive of the People's Mandate was that thieves and fraudsters be brought to justice. As promised, we will ensure that those who destroy the country by embezzling public funds and soliciting bribes and commissions are arrested. There are around 18,000 files, all of which must be investigated. We are also working towards establishing 4 or 5 additional courts in the future. When a government loses public approval, it has no option but to resort to repression. That is exactly what they are doing by questioning Shanti Rajapaksa, Namal and myself. Repression is the only approach available to the government. Resorting to repression is a clear sign that the government is weak. This government, whenever things do not go their way, resort to summoning opposition members or former politicians to the CID. Instead of doing that, they should focus on identifying the thieves within their own party. Several ministers of this government are facing corruption charges, and the integrity of the administration can only be protected if these issues are addressed.
ඕහොම ඉතින් ඕවා මේ නිකන් ගස්වල ගෙඩි වැටෙනවා වගේ වැටෙන්නේ නැනේ. මේ 159ක් තියෙන ආණ්ඩුවක් අද වැටේ හෙට වැටේ කිව්වට ඉතින් ඒකත් අපි පිළිගන්න ඕනේ යථාර්ථය.
Welcome back to First at 9. The sacred Devni relics of Lord Buddha arrived in Sri Lanka for a special exposition earlier today, marking the first time they have travelled out of India. The sacred relics, which are placed at Gangarame Temple in Hunupitiya, will be open for veneration from tomorrow until the 11th of February.
In the 1960s, several sacred relics of Lord Buddha were unearthed in archaeological excavations at the historic Devni site in Gujarat. The relics are being kept at Maharaja Sayajirao University in Vadodara, Gujarat. Following discussions between Sri Lankan President Anura Dissanayake and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi during his visit to Sri Lanka, it was decided to transport the sacred relics to Sri Lanka for a special exposition, marking the first time they have travelled out of India.
You might be aware that under the leadership of our Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, our effort has been to spread the values and the teachings of Buddhism around, particularly in our part of the world. It is the first time that this relic exposition is happening anywhere outside India. Buddhism has always been the strongest bond between India and Sri Lanka. You would recall that the Prime Minister, when he came in April last year, he went to Anuradhapura, where we will be renovating the sacred complex in Anuradhapura under an Indian grant. We have also provided support for free electricity to Buddhist religious places of worship. 5,000 of the religious places of worship have already been covered and another 8,000 will be covered.
Accordingly, the Indian aircraft bearing the sacred relics arrived at the Bandaranaike International Airport at 1 p.m. this afternoon. The delegation accompanying the relics include Buddhist clergy, Deputy Chief Minister of Gujarat Harsh Sanghavi and Governor Acharya Devrat. The sacred relics were received at the BIA with Buddhist rites by a delegation of Sri Lankan monks led by Deputy Chief Village of the Malwatu chapter, Venerable Dimbul Kumure Vimala Dhammathera. Minister of Buddha Sasana, Religious and Cultural Affairs Professor Hiniduma Sunil Senavi was also in attendance. Subsequently, the sacred relics were transported to the Gangarame temple in Hunupitiya. The memorandum between Sri Lanka's Ministry of Buddha Sasana, Religious and Cultural Affairs and India's Cultural Ministry on the exposition of the sacred relics was exchanged today. Subsequently, President Anura Dissanayake paid homage to the sacred relics.
මෙය නිරාවරණය කරමින් මේ උතුම් සර්වඥ ධාතුන් වහන්සේ ප්‍රදර්ශනය නිල වශයෙන් විවෘත කිරීම සිදු කරනවා.
See the President, followed by distinguished guests. This will be accompanied by traditional Pirit chants.
Devotees will receive the opportunity to venerate the relics from 6 a.m. tomorrow until 7 p.m. on the 11th of February.
බුදුන් වදින්නවායි කියන සිතුවිල්ලෙන් ගංගාරාම පුදබිමට සේන්දු වෙන්න ඕන. ඊට සුදුසු ඇඳුමකි. සුදු නම් වඩාත් හොඳයි. ඇඳවගෙන එන්න පැය 24ම ධාතුන් වහන්සේලා වන්දනාමාන කරන්න ඉඩ හරිනවා. මේක ආගමික කටයුත්තක් ලබන්න පුළුවන් ඉහළ මානසංශය ලබා ගන්න උත්සාහ ගන්න.
The police commented on security arrangements for the special exposition.
රතගල් රාශියක් සූදානම් කරලා තියෙනවා විහාරස්ථානයේට. ජංගම දුරකථන, ගමන් මළු, හෙල්මට්, විදුලි උපකරණ රැගෙන යාමෙන්
That's all for tonight from First at 9. Thank you for joining. Have a great night.